Yeah, we got one over there.
All right. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is the approval of the minutes from last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the meeting of the minutes of the meeting from June
7th.
7th.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Let's proceed to vote.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Scorts,
Yes.
Remy.
Yes. Next item of business is a public hearing. Nancy, why don't you update us, and then we'll open it up for public comments.
Thank you. This first request is an application from Charles Albert to rezone 3 properties located at the corner of Montezuma and Silo. The applicant was Charles Albert. He had the property, all 3 parcels involved, under contract. He has withdrawn his contract, and hence his request for rezone. However, the 2 of the 3 properties, there's 2 separate owners. Given that we have fully noticed the application and public hearing, the current landowners are now considering whether or not they want to proceed with the rezoning. The rezoning is a request to go from commercial to neighborhood business, which is in effect a little bit of a down zone. It does allow, neighborhood business does allow residential uses where commercial does not, except for some jurisdictions. So anyway, they have requested that you would open the hearing, continue it until the beginning of August, and they may or may not decide to proceed on that. But I would suggest at this time you open the public hearing, see if there's any public comment, listen to it, close the public hearing, and continue it until August.
Okay, we'll open a public hearing on the rezoning item. Is there anybody here to speak for or against? Come over. And the microphone button is right in front, and it should turn from red to green. Introduce yourself and I guess where you live. I don't know if that really...
There we go. Sarah Kuhn, 412 North Sligo. I'm not in the immediate vicinity. I'm several blocks down from there, but I'm here against it as far as being zoned multiple residents. If they want to zone each lot residential, great. Have a single resident use or duplexes. I think that's a really bad spot to put an apartment building or condos, just because it's already a high traffic, high impact area. And I think it would really affect the value of the neighborhoods. And if anybody has walked that area and seen that lot, it is not conducive for condominiums. The way it slopes, there's a drainage ditch there by Safeway. It's just not a good lot to have for residential.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for her? Thank you. Anyone else speak for or against? We'll close the public hearing. And
Do we need a motion to continue?
Well, I have a discussion on it before we go to a motion.
okay.
If that's okay. Should I do that now, or?
Yeah.
I would just like, Nancy, if you could clarify for me just what the difference is between commercial and residential business. Apparently, that you can have multi-unit on a neighborhood business, but you can't in commercial, and what other ramifications are there to that zoning? Thanks.
It's a little difficult to summarize, but it's zoned commercially now, which allows most commercial uses, retail, et cetera. It's right next to Safeway. So obviously grocery stores, retail, offices, those kinds of things are currently allowed. Townhomes are not allowed. Apartments are allowed if they're on the second floor and no more than 50% of the bottom floor. But for the most part, you don't allow multifamily. So to go down to neighborhood business takes away a lot of the heavier commercial uses. So retail stores are no longer allowed. But things like offices, medical offices, sort of the lower intensity commercial uses are allowed in that zone. Plus, it does also allow townhomes, condominiums, or duplexes, fourplexes. The applicant who has withdrawn was considering doing fourplexes, for whatever that's worth. They've decided not to go after the property. So.
Thanks.
Well, I'm looking at two different items here, and one is to the City of Cortez Planning Department, and it's Heber Hankey, and he's wanting the zoning be changed to neighborhood business.
Correct.
But on the other one, from Mattress Outlet LLC, they are requesting the zoning be changed to residential.
They revised that after we talked to them, so it went to neighborhood business.
So which one are they requesting again?
They were requesting neighborhood business, which does allow residential where general commercial does not, or commercial does not.
And if it was changed to residential? If it was changed to residential, that'd be like R2, right? If they want a condo there?
Right. R2 would be the request if they wanted a multifamily type zoning. It's confusing. I agree.
Yeah, I would suggest we have a motion to put it on next month's agenda to get a little more background of what's really going on here.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue this until such time as the current property owners decide how they want to present their request.
And our next meeting is August 2nd, I think. You wanna-
The next meeting would be August 2nd if they're ready by then, but I don't know that it's a rush, in my opinion. So I'm just saying until they're ready.
If you continue to August 2nd, we don't need to republish the public notice, which
Okay.
was
All right.
why we.
Then look, I would like to amend that motion to say,
Well, you just want to restate the motion.
yeah, I want to restate my motion that we go ahead and continue this request for a hearing until August 2nd.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Let's go ahead and vote.
Scorts,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Remy.
Yes. Next item is new business. Montezuma County is going to hold a public hearing. And Nancy, would you highlight us on this, please?
This request by Keith Evans and Kurt Nancy Mangan is located at 10869 Road 26, outside of Cortez. It's a super minor boundary adjustment change where they want to adjust the property line between the two parcels to essentially move the property line to where the fence line is now. So it's a minor lot line adjustment. The property is, however, located within the 1 mile area of influence, and Road 26 is designated as an arterial. If you have any comments, the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will be holding a public hearing on March 10th.
Yeah, wait a minute.
No, on July 10th. And please let us know if you have any concerns.
Does anybody have any comments for the county? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business and updates on current projects.
Okay, since we got you here, we thought we'd let you know a few things that are going on here. The first one we wanted to talk about a little bit is to let you know about the Board of Adjustment, recent Board of Adjustment meeting with the Mesa Verde Inn. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this property. One of you is a few of you on the Board of Adjustment. But they applied for 3 separate variances. That's another property that's under contract to a group that wants to renovate the inn to long-term rental apartments from the existing motel. The request they put in was for 3 separate variances to allow them to make the remodel happen. The first one was to that requirement that for apartments in the commercial zone, you must have 50% of the ground floor be commercial. On that property, there's a restaurant and some existing commercial. Only 36% of the property is commercial now. They did not want to have to keep motel units on the ground floor. They requested a variance to only have 36% of the ground floor be commercial. That variance was granted by the Board of Adjustment last week. The second variance was regarding the unit size for a studio unit, which in the code for commercial zoning requires 500 square foot minimum. Of course, since they're converting existing motel rooms to apartments, studio apartments, they were already less than 500 square feet. So they requested a variance for some of the units. Some of the units they'll be combining into two or three motel units into one apartment rental. So they requested a variance for the unit size for some of them, and that was also granted. And then they also requested a variance to the parking standards. In part, having very small studio units, 2 parking spaces did seem excessive. They have a lot of parking on the property. So the request was for 14 less parking spaces than the code would require. And that was also granted by the Board of Adjustment. So I think our next step here, they will have to apply for a site plan review in front of the Planning Commission here. At that point, we'll know a little bit more about the property as far as details with drainage and parking, circulation, etc. So we expect that you'll see that coming up, probably not until September. I haven't seen an application yet.
Will you remind me where the Mesa Verde Inn is?
It's 550 South Broadway and 610. Anyway.
Jim, it'd be the old Anasazi?
Oh, the old Anasazi Inn? Okay, with the restaurant out front. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Anthony?
And then I thought we'd update you. Your August meeting is shaping up to be a pretty busy one. We may see the rezoning. That may get withdrawn, I'm not sure, but that could be on the agenda. Did the public leave? She's still there. We have an application for a car wash on South Broadway and at the intersection with Canyon. So that will be on the agenda for site plan. We also are tentatively scheduling code amendments for 3 different topics: the accessory dwelling units, food trucks, and then a real minor one on family childcare. I think I'll go in a little more detail on the ADUs and food trucks, but just briefly on the family childcare, there's new state legislation that does not allow you to regulate family childcare any differently than you would regulate a single-family home. So the current Cortez Code does not regulate small childcare homes any differently. You don't require permits for small childcare homes, but you do require a conditional use permit for large childcare homes, which are 12 children or less, I believe. State won't allow that anymore, so we need to revise the code, probably just to either revise the definitions or not require a conditional use permit for the large childcare home. The legislation does say that in the meantime, if anyone applies for a large childcare home, we just need to allow them to do it. We can't require the conditional use permit. So we'll be ignoring that code until we change it. I'm saying this because we didn't do introductions, did we?
They would,
Yeah.
they would still have to follow some square footage guidelines that,
They're still regulated by the state,
yeah, okay.
and they'll have to follow all those rules, but the local jurisdictions can't require separate ones. Now, before I go over, talk about food trucks and ADUs, I think we have some introductions coming.
Yeah, Commissioners, Drew Sanders here, City Manager. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Patrick Coleman. He goes by Pat. He is our new city attorney, so would like to welcome him and look forward to working with him in the future.
Welcome aboard.
There you go.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I can add some value to your process.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and I'm sorry. Or condolences, or how do you say that? Both? Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm glad the city has an in-house attorney. That's exciting. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit, you want to talk about food trucks now? Don't know much about those. In August, it's likely that you will see a code amendment related to food trucks. Right now, the code references, the land code allows food trucks across the board throughout the city, with the exception of the central business district where they're not allowed at all. There have been some requests to the city council about allowing food trucks, especially in conjunction with the farm. We have completed a little public outreach, we completed a survey on food trucks, and next week we will be doing some direct outreach to the central business district owners and restaurant owners. And assuming we're still standing, we will likely prepare some code amendments to have in front of you at your August 7th meeting. Oh, man. Like every time. Did you guys hear that?
No, I didn't. What was it?
All of it?
No, just your mic wasn't on?
Right.
Oh, that part I didn't hear. The rest of it I heard, thank you.
Okay, so we got that. So Wednesday, July 13th, 2:30, we're doing a specific outreach to downtown business owners and especially restaurant owners. I'm not really encouraging the Planning Commission to go there. It is a legislative, but there will be a full public hearing in front of you, and we'd rather you hear all the information at the public hearing. But in case you know people that own restaurants or our business owners downtown. You might encourage them. We'll have it right here at 2:30 on July 13th.
So is there an idea to have a food truck while farmers market's going on, and then once the market shuts down, their food trucks leave?
We don't really know how it might work out. I think the range of possibilities are something that specific. I mean, the range of possibilities are no change, no food trucks downtown, a very limited option where it's only special events or maybe the farmer's market, all the way up to open it up to certain locations downtown. So
Okay, thank you.
there was the outreach that we did to the general public was pretty overwhelming, that the people that responded were very much in favor of having food trucks downtown.
How do you think the restaurant owners are going to respond?
That's why I said if we're still standing. In the past, they all had concerns. It was interesting, though. A lot of the comments that I heard from the public were, I don't have time to go to a restaurant during my lunch hour. I'd love to just pop over to a food truck, grab something. It'd be healthier than driving down to McDonald's or one of the fast food options. So it was interesting talking to Rachel and I sat there at Third Thursday, and we might have seen some of you there, and talked to a lot of people about it. Of course, that was a crowd that's sort of pro food truck anyway, with that kind of event. So we'll get to hear from the brick and mortar restaurants next week.
So what you're saying is it's not just during the farmer's market, it could be at any time? Okay.
Maybe. Yes.
We're still somewhat limited to that in the central business district because of parking and because of busy Main Street, and so there would still have to be some limitations, but that's what we're hoping to explore.
Okay.
My 1.5 cents worth is that empty lot next to Abundant Life, and Poncho would be a great place for some food trucks. I always thought that for years. So anyhow, there's more to it. Yeah.
Okay, accessory dwelling units. So we will be noticing those also for your August 2nd meeting. We conducted again the public outreach at Third Thursday and have a survey that's up on the website and Facebook links. It's a much longer survey and it has quite a bit less response. So we've only gotten about, 38 responses to the survey, but we wanted to provide that for you just to see what some of the public are thinking about it right now. So we kind of went through with our questions, the things that we had posed to you and talked to you guys about. I think Jim provided some input on our survey. So that was really, thank you, Jim. And anyway, I just thought I'd go over that sort of quickly, but I don't want to show you what we've heard from the public. I guess I would say that looking at question number 1, it was pretty overwhelming that most people appear to want to continue to allow accessory dwelling units in Cortez. When we asked about locations, it was a little bit more mixed, but most people seem to think it's a good idea to open up more zoning districts to allow accessory dwelling units in them, with 70-some% of the respondents saying that anywhere residential properties are allowed, it would make sense. Then we asked them about, should we continue the 20% larger lot size requirement to allow an ADU? And remember that when we gave you the GIS analysis, that really eliminated a huge amount of potential lots from the pool of people that could apply. Again, we had pretty overwhelming, close to over 70% of the respondents saying allow it on any lot that's conforming in size. We asked about would a property be attractive to you? And there's not much meaning to that one for the code, but there were quite a few, over 50% said yes, it would be attractive to me, or very attractive. Actually, if I add attractive and very attractive, we're hitting, over 80%. Then we asked about the process should be required for approval. Should it continue to be a conditional use permit like it is now? Should it be by right? Should there be some sort of bifurcation depending on what type of ADU it is? And what we got there was continue to require a public process with Planning Commission and City Council, which is hit 50%. It's interesting.
And excuse me, but then doesn't the 23% on top of that add to it? Because the 23% by right, no, oh, I see, my mistake. I misread it. You're fine.
Yeah, that would get you at like 38% if,
My mistake. Sorry.
and then we went on with the restriction on size. This one was much more mixed a little than the other ones. We had about 38%, 36% saying there should be no size limit. But then when you start adding up, it said no greater than 500 square feet was 10%, no greater than 750, 18%, and no greater than 850, 21%. So I'm not really sure where we come down on that, other than the most common response, the most popular one was no size limit on the ADU.
And just to keep in mind, during all of this surveying, there's only 14 people in the town, so this really doesn't give us a great sample. I mean, it's just of the people you have.
Yeah, only 38 people answered it.
Right, yeah. So when you say, 36% says there should be no limitation, that's only 14 folks in town, so we're not looking at a huge survey size.
Right. Then we asked about restriction on the size of the ADU relative to the existing dwelling, so that's the percentage like we have now. This one got to be a little more directed towards the no greater than 50% of the existing single-family home. And then it was super balanced on all the other options. Interesting. Then we asked about the ownership, and should it be a primary residence? Should they be required to live in, the owner of the property be required to live in the primary residence? We almost got super balanced. Yes, the answer saying yes, the primary residence should be owner occupied was 36%. No, allow the owner to occupy either the ADU or the primary residence, got 31%. And then no, don't require owner occupancy at all, and that's 31%. Not sure what that tells you. We asked about a restriction on the location of the accessory dwelling unit on the property, and that one said let them be attached or detached from the primary dwelling at 84%. So that was another sort of overwhelming comment. We asked about off-street parking. This was a big debate with you guys, I think. The 52% said require one additional parking space for the ADU. We had 21% at 2 additional parking spaces, which is the current requirement. And then we got a high percentage of other, which...
Do you have the other? Because I'm curious what people said.
Yeah, I do have the comments, and it's hard to get, but we're going to go over those in a little bit.
Yeah, there's an Excel file that includes all the individual comments, and the comments are quite interesting, but it would have been a multi-page document, so
Right, I'm just wondering what people are thinking between 1 and 2, what that could they possibly have in those others? So if you have those comments, at some point, I'll look at them.
And then, let's see, is this our last question? This was your question, not our last question. If ADUs were allowed in your neighborhood, how likely would you pursue constructing one within the next 3 years on your property? We had a lot of very likely and likelies, which would be the overwhelming, would be the majority there, with about 20% saying not likely, another 5-8% saying unlikely and very unlikely. So I didn't add that. 21, 7, and 10. What's that? 39% said not very likely or not likely. Our next question, all right, this was the one that Jim asked us to ask. I liked it. If your next door neighbor sought to build an ADU, would you approve? And surprisingly, we had 76% say yes. Where is your primary residence? We were just asking that to see if we were getting overwhelmed with comments that weren't from city residences. Most of everybody that answered were city residents. In fact, when we asked them to fill out the survey, we asked if they lived in the city, and if they really insisted, we would give them the survey anyway, but for the most part, they were all city residents. And that's it, other than the comments. So for what it's worth, it doesn't really have a lot of responses, but what we got was interesting. And we had a great conversation with a lot of people about the idea of them. And then when you go to the, oh no, I'm going to have to log into the public comments. Do you have them? I'll get there.
Nancy, I got a couple questions first.
Sure.
Are they still able to take the survey online?
No, it has ended.
Okay. And at the third Thursday, did you just gather the information, paper, pencil, and then you guys input it?
So we had a table there with information, which is also on our website, about what an accessory dwelling unit is. We ended up using the term mother-in-law flats because most people realize what that is. So if anything, we were able to, let people know what an ADU is and just kind of explain that we're seeking opinions and this is what we're considering and what do you think. So we had a lot of good conversations, but it is kind of a daunting and very specific survey, which I don't think was as popular as the food truck survey, which was only 5 questions and
So after talking to you guys at the booth, they'd have to still physically go online and do the survey?
Yeah, we made it really easy, though. You can just take a picture with your phone of the QR code, and it'll take you directly to the survey.
Okay.
So some folks did do that at the event.
Thank you.
I have a comment. The comment that I have, I got from Cheryl some time ago, that Bloomberg City Lab report that I've been talking about for a couple of weeks now. And interesting, some of the things in there. I'm glad on the survey you said ADUs and not affordable housing, because for my fellow commissioners here, the Bloomberg City Lab report entitled How One Colorado City Instantly Created Affordable Housing, it goes on to say that ADUs are not affordable housing. I just wanted to read a couple of points from there. ADUs are an intriguing possibility, but they don't fit the institutional view of what affordable housing is. And again, no tangible statistics to support affordable housing. It seems that there's a consensus that ADUs are a smart way to achieve reasonable rental rates. And the last thing I want to read is, while not on average cheaper in terms of price per square foot, secondary units are more likely to represent smaller and therefore cheaper housing packages than the typical rental unit. So that whole question about is it affordable housing or not, I know that it's the point that I wanted to find out is it make it cheaper per square foot, and it doesn't. It's just a smaller, tinier house is all. So thank you, Cheryl, for getting that. That's all.
I'll continue to insist that they'll be below market rate, but there you go.
not below market in price per square foot, though.
I think that was referring to construction, wasn't it? No? Okay. City of Durango just did a survey of all their ADU owners to try and determine whether or not they're more affordable, and they're still not sure. So, there you go.
And I'm sorry, there's one more thing in that same report. What Durango did, we were talking about what in the survey, whether or not the owner should have to occupy the property. When Durango put their code in for ADUs, owner-occupied home is a requirement. No absentee landlords renting out both the home and the ADU, and they also put a ban on short-term vacation rentals, which has been one of my sticking points because I can see people putting up an ADU and have both facilities go short-term rental, which will not help our population base here. So that's one of the things that Durango did, and I agree with that one.
And then just going over, looking at some of the comments as far as parking, Jim, some of the comments said as needed by the normal occupancy of the unit, or no, if other people can park, it's not a problem. No, this might make it harder to have an ADU on some properties. One said, no, we have plenty of city parking.
Thank you.
That's, this one says one additional spot could be allocated. And then some of the other comments that I might highlight is, well, there was a general, people should be allowed to do what they want with their property. The government shouldn't be involved. Some saying should be allowed with standard permitting. I'm not sure what that is. One person wanted to make sure that all existing units were grandfathered in. There was quite a few people who thanked us for seeking community input, and others that were happy that we were asking for public input in a manner that didn't make them come to a public meeting. I liked those. And a lot of people that emphasized now the need for affordable housing options and other options. One just said, I love this idea. There were several people that had concerns about multiple families living on the same small property and streets being too crowded, people using their garages now for toys instead of parking. I guess that's most of it, but we can provide that for you at the public meeting because it is public input that they should all see.
And actually, it doesn't look like it is. Considering the number of responses, it's not going to be too huge of a file.
Any questions for Nancy? Okay. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. I guess my question would be, what would be the next step? Would you try to get a larger pool to survey, or put this out there longer, or not? Or just kind of like tool a draft ordinance based on these responses?
Our direction was to provide a draft to go forward. So we'll have a draft for you on August 2nd. You can decide to vote it up, change it, vote it down, or continue.
Anything else? Then I guess we'd open it up for any public participation. Anybody have any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to entertain a motion for adjournment. Oh, go ahead, public.
If you don't mind your indulgence, please, while I ask Nancy and Rachel a question about I don't consider myself computer illiterate, but I have had a really rough time navigating the city's website on my phone and on my iPad. Now, I don't have access to a laptop or a computer. Is it dumbed down as much as it can be? I mean, maybe I'm the only one, I don't know. It was very confusing looking for the agenda. I was trying to find out how my roommate's property is zoned, and it took me about 15 minutes of trying different suggestions, or, even in the search column, there were several suggestions to go find the answer, but it definitely wasn't the first 3 or 4 I checked. It was, down, I'm sure I spent 30 minutes at least trying to find how that property is zoned, and I don't know if anybody else is having that problem or if you've had complaints or suggestions from the public, but is it dumbed down as much as possible? And I hasten to, I don't really want to use the word dumbed down, but is it as user friendly as it's ever going to get, I guess is what I'm asking.
No, it's not as user-friendly as it's going to get. We are working on redesigning the website. It is taking some time because there's quite an extensive amount of information on there. But as far as, I'm curious, were you looking at a map that you were trying to, or were you looking at land?
There were like 5 or 6 different maps. Yeah. And the one I finally found that is color-coded and has the property in a map that is comprehensible to me wasn't the first 7 or 8 I went to. There were different maps, but they were not easy to read. The delineations of the streets and the neighborhoods were not clear.
Did you find this one online?
That's the one I finally found, yes, but it certainly wasn't the one highest suggested in the search. So.
I had a problem opening the PDF, which was supposed to be kind of like the official zoning map, and then I did find later on a link to the GIS map that has the shades layers over it, but the PDF has like this thin outline of the zone districts, which are really hard to see and differentiate pink and red. But also the main problem was that when I looked at it in Adobe Acrobat, it was corrupted. Like there were full on, like every other centimeter, there was like a blank across the entire horizontal lines. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but maybe even just replacing that PDF.
Yeah, that should be a fairly simple fix, I would like to say. So maybe there could be something that we can do in the near future, and then also make a note of that for our web redesign. But thanks for the feedback, because we want to know from a user's perspective what you're having problems with.
If you, get on there and you have problems with something, stop by the office or call them and let them know so they can try to.
Well, right. I know they're busy.
But I mean,
yes,
because anybody should be able to get on there, and if they can't find something, they should go to the office. So.
And also, Lance, because when I first got on here, I had no clues what's going on. I don't have much more now. I had Cheryl make me a copy of that map, and I have that map at my house now, and so that really helps me, because I'm a paper guy, not a computer guy. So.
To be honest, I probably do too.
Yeah.
I have probably 10 or 15 notebooks from the city over the years, and I was going the easy way through the website instead of going leafing through the different notebooks that I have. But like I said, I just wanted to mention it. It's certainly not impossible to navigate. It's just I'm quite lazy and I have a short attention span. So if it doesn't work quickly in the first 5 or 10 minutes, I'm usually on to something else. So, but I just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
And since Lance brought up computer glitches, am I the only one who didn't receive a notification of our meeting tonight? Did everybody else on their computer? Because we didn't last month, and this month I didn't get a notification.
I didn't either. I didn't look in my spam, though, either, but I shouldn't have had to.
Yeah, and last month I looked at my spam and it wasn't there. So I know Cheryl said you guys are working on it, but still know that we're not getting notifications of the meeting. So
I think some of it is we don't have control over that our email is being received as junk mail by your email servers. But if there's a workaround, so I think that maybe it's kicking back the automatic email that's generated through Agenda Quick. So we've been working on addressing that by sending you an actual link and then also the PDF of the packet. But you said you didn't get that this time either.
Did you guys have any problem? No, I didn't get it either.
Not until just yesterday or whenever.
This weekend, okay.
That's why I was there.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? Comments? Motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we adjourn this meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Let's proceed to vote.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Scorts,
Aye.
Levy,
Yes.
Remy.
Yes, meeting adjourned.
Is that recycling? I'm going down there.
No, I'm gonna read